Live from the 22 News Broadcast Center, this is a Decision 2015 special program. Today, the West Springfield mayoral debate. And now, here's Rich Teddemer.
Good afternoon. 22 News is working for you as we let the candidates you'll see on the ballot on Tuesday, November 3rd, debate the issues. Today, it's the candidates running for mayor of West Springfield. State Representative Mike Finn and West Springfield Town Attorney Will Reichelt are vying, that is, for the seat held by Mayor Ed Sullivan, who decided not to run for a second term. This is a Lincoln-Douglas-style debate where the candidates will ask each other the questions with time for answers and rebuttal. First, each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement. Mike Finn, you go first.
Thank you very much, Rich, and thank you to Channel 22 for hosting today's event. My name is Mike Finn, and I'm a candidate for mayor in West Springfield, and I'm running for mayor because I believe that at this time of transition in the town of West Springfield, our town needs strong leadership now more than ever. Leadership that I bring to the potential position. I spent 8 years in the West Springfield City Council learning how the municipal government works, 5 years now in the state legislature learning how state government works, and I strongly believe that the combination of both local government and state government experience coming together at this time that we need it the most is the most imperative decision that the voters can make. So thank you.
Will Reichelt, your opening statement, please.
Thank you, Rich. And thank you all who tuned in today in 22 News for hosting this debate. I'm Will Reichelt. As you heard Mr. Finn say before, he says the difference between him and I is our understanding of free cash. But I believe the differences go deeper and begin with our understanding of local government and the job of the mayor. I've worked for the past 4 years in the executive office. I've been chief counsel to 2 mayors in 2 communities, and I've crafted municipal budgets. Last year, Mayor Ed Sullivan hand-selected me to be the town's first chief legal officer. I'm the only candidate here with the hands-on experience and the attitude that will get the job done. I'm the only candidate here with a plan that will move our community forward and not engage in a tax rebate shell game. I ask that on November 3rd, you cast your vote for a responsible leader and not a politician. Let's not let our community slide backwards. Let's do what's best for Westside. I'm Will Reichelt, and I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Once again, this is a Lincoln-Douglas-style debate where the candidates ask each other the questions and get the answers. Each candidate will have 30 seconds to ask a question. There's 60 seconds for an answer, then 30 seconds for rebuttal. And by virtue of the drawing, first, Mike Finn, you have the first question.
Thank you very much, Rich. Mr. Reichelt, in a recent debate, you said, and I quote, that the town has recently developed a new tax incentive program for new businesses. What are the specifics of this program, and what businesses have taken advantage of it thus far?
The tax incentive program that was developed is the TIF. It's a combination of the local government and as well as the town government. What we do is structure a deal that's negotiated between the mayor and the business. Mayor Sullivan instituted a policy of, I believe it's 50, 25, 25, depending on the investment they're going to make and depending on the year. Once that's approved at the local level by Mayor Sullivan, and he has a small board that oversees these, which I'm involved on along with our economic development director, it goes forward to the state, and the state must also approve it. So far, there is one business that's looking into taking advantage of it. We've been working with them since August, looking to get them on the December meeting, I believe, with the state's economic development department. Thank you.
Rebuttal.
Thank you, and to Mr. Reichelt. The program that you were just speaking about isn't new. It's something that the town of West Springfield has been actively pursuing for years, and I think that, you know, speaking half-truths or trying to mislead potential businesses and to think that there's a new program that exists that doesn't is a real problem and something that the voters should take a real notice of. And it goes directly to the point about how you're trying to mislead people about the tax program that I've talked about regarding the use of free cash.
Mr. Reichelt, your question, please.
Mr. Finn, you've talked a lot about free cash over the past few weeks, but you haven't given us many specifics, specifically what amount of money anyone's going to get back. But you did do some math on your Facebook page recently, and I saw that it was roughly $8 million multiplied by the 25% campaign promise divided by what I believe is the number of taxpayers here in town. And you allege that they'll each receive $250.18 back. None of those facts are correct, so I'm wondering why you wouldn't fact-check that first before misleading the voters.
So when it comes to the use of free cash, this is something that's extremely technical, hard to understand topic. The reality is that the numbers that I've been speaking about that are certified, that are readily available on the town's website, certified by the Department of Revenue, are real numbers. And the use of that free cash is something that's discretionary to be used by the mayor of the town of West Springfield, whomever that is. And so when you talk about these things, it's really about, the people of the town of West Springfield have been asking for tax relief. The spending has gone up over $10 million in 2 years, and this is something that needs to be addressed. I've put forth a proposal. The city of Chicopee is doing exactly what I've proposed. The city of Westfield is proposing to do the same thing. I think that the voters deserve a candidate who's willing to, put forward a proposal, and stop telling them why we can't do something, but we should be discussing how we can do something, and I will do something.
Rebuttal.
I never said we can't do it. I'm saying that it's not the most responsible way to create sustainable savings for our community. What we do need to do is not complicate free cash and talk about what it really is. Look at the real numbers and what we're really going to get back. Your numbers have changed again and again and again. And Chicopee and Westfield are not doing the same thing that you proposed. They've not made a campaign promise. They're saying that we could look at this after all our bills are paid and after everything for infrastructure is done in our community the correct way.
Mr. Finn, your question, please.
Thank you, Mr. Reichelt. For years, our town has resisted the permitting of electronic signs, although many local businesses, including town buildings, have made requests and been denied. Why did you just allow the Big E to be given special treatment and permit them to have electronic signage?
It was not me that allowed them to have special treatment and get electronic signage. We've been working with the Big E when I was in the planning board, I believe it was a year, and then it was the planning board and the city council after I became the town attorney that allowed them to have their electronic signs. And we've now been working for over a year to improve our electronic sign ordinance so that we can do it throughout town in a safe and proper manner instead of just allowing it to become Las Vegas overnight. One of the reasons working with the Big E, and they hired Ty and Bond, which made a significant investment in our ordinance, was to allow them to compete with MGM across the river. If you recall any of those discussions, those public meetings that we had, there was a lot of discussion about whether or not they would be able to compete. And again, it was a step in the right direction to begin to allow electronic signage throughout town, but do it in a safe and responsible manner for all our businesses and all our citizens so they can all work on a fair playing field.
Rebuttal.
Thank you. If it was for all the businesses in town, then the ordinance would have been changed, and other businesses that, like Belize, who have asked for improved signage, the high school, the West Springfield High School, who's also asked for improved signage. If it was a level playing field for everybody across the board, then we would have a new policy in place, something that you failed to accomplish as town attorney. You've been working on it for more than 2 years now, or just about 2 years. I apologize for that. And I think that the message that's being sent to every other business in the community that can't get a resolution to something is wrong.
Will Reichelt, your next question, please.
I'm not sure if you understand how it works in the mayor's office and how these ordinances go forward. But let's talk about status quo, something you've mentioned a lot. You've accused Mayor Sullivan's administration of being status quo mainly because they haven't accomplished enough in the past 2 years. But if you've read recent articles from Mayor Sullivan, we have accomplished a lot and started a lot. Why do you believe Mayor Sullivan's administration is status quo when for the past 5 years you voted almost every time with the Boston Democratic leadership? Wouldn't that be status quo as well?
So to answer your question, no, it isn't. And I have not criticized Mayor Sullivan's administration. What I have done is acknowledge the fact that in 2 years there's much more that needs to be done. I don't think that anybody in town, when we look at our education, one of the promises that was made that was that our educational system would be a top performing system, and the reality is that we're stagnant and some of our schools went backwards. And I think that, when we're talking about the status quo, when we talk about the use of free cash, when we talk about improving our fields, when we talk about all of the other things in our community that need to be improved, it's about changing the mindset at Town Hall. We need someone who recognizes that there is more that needs to be done. We need someone that's not just going to say why we can't do something, but talk about how we can do it and move the town forward in that positive direction. And the experience that I've gained in government over the last 13 years, both municipally and locally, state level, will be a valuable asset to our community as we move forward.
Rebuttal.
Mr. Finn, you didn't answer to me why what you've done in the past 5 years is not status quo. But we have been moving the town forward. And my job as the attorney is to work with people as they present their problems and find workable solutions. I can't tell them they can do everything they want to do because then I would not be protecting the interests of West Springfield. And that's my job as the town attorney. And as the mayor, I'll continue a lot of the things that Mayor Sullivan and I have started and move them forward for this town.
Mike Finn, your next question, please.
Thank you. Mr. Reichelt, you've said, and I quote, grants are no pot of gold to save our town. My question to you is, how many grant applications have you initiated for the town, and how many of those applications have been awarded?
Again, my job as the town attorney is not to initiate grant applications. I worked on grants when I was over in Agawam, and as you can see, they built the dog park with them, and also I worked with their CPA as well as our CPA. I was on it for almost 6 years, and we worked on grant applications that built parts of Mittenegg Park, the Stone Bridge. But my job as a town attorney is not to initiate grants. And when I say there's no pot of gold, because you infer that with hiring someone, they'll continue recurring revenues year after year. Grants are a great opportunity, and we need to continue to pursue them as we do. But a lot of the times they're for one-time projects, such as Mittenegg Park and other opportunities we've explored throughout town. They're not going to supplement recurring revenues. They're not going to provide sustainable savings, which is what I want to do as our next mayor.
Rebuttal.
Thank you. And again, if we're not trying to apply for as many grants as possible, then the town's leaving millions and millions of dollars on the table. We've been successful in gaining grants to help buy new fire apparatus. We've been successful in gaining grants to improve the entryway to Mittenegg Park. But there's still so much more that needs to be done. And currently, the Urban Agenda, the new Gateway Cities grant program for the Commonwealth, sent a notice to the town of West Springfield. All we had to do was sign a letter of intent to apply for that, and the town failed to do so. We're leaving millions of dollars on the table, and if I'm elected mayor, we're going to move forward with grant applications as I've promised.
Will, your next question, please.
Mr. Finn, as a state rep a few years ago, the Boston Herald wrote an article about one of the bills you sponsored, which improved your pension as a state rep and gave you a pension bump for the 15 years you served as a court officer. And that was court officer before, not state rep. I apologize. Why do you not think that that would be a self-serving legislation to file?
If I was running for state representative, I think that that would be a valid question that deserved answers. And I've actually been asked that question on this very stage. The reality is when we're talking about the position of mayor, when we're talking about who's best suited to move this town forward, I'm the candidate that has the most experience. I'm the one that has proven results for the town of West Springfield. The bill that you're inquiring about, it was something that was approved by the State Ethics Commission. It had absolutely no benefit to me whatsoever. And the fact that you're bringing something up that's 5 years old is really quite startling when we're talking about the future of the town of West Springfield and how the next administration is going to be able to effectively move this town.
Rebuttal.
I think it's important because as the next mayor, people are going to judge us and the amount of work we're going to put in, how much of ourselves we're going to give to the town. I think I've shown that through the work ethic I've provided both as the town attorney working full-time and also running a full-time campaign and trying to do as much as possible in both jobs throughout the time. It's really important for them to see that we're going to dedicate ourselves to this community, dedicate ourselves to the job over the next 2 years, and do what's best for West Springfield.
Okay, guys, we're going to take a quick 2-minute break right now, then more questions for the candidates running for mayor of West Springfield. You're watching 22 News.
Live from the 22 News Broadcast Center, this is a special Decision 2015 edition of 22 News.
Welcome back to our debate between the candidates running for mayor of West Springfield. State Representative Mike Finn is being opposed by West Springfield Town Attorney Will Reichelt. They're vying for the seat held by Mayor Ed Sullivan, who decided not to run for a second term. Right now they're in the middle of a Lincoln-Douglas-style debate where they ask each other the questions with time for answers and rebuttal. And Mike Finn, you have the next question.
Thank you very much, Rich. Mr. Reichelt, you've said, and I quote, one goal of yours will be to look at spending and see where we can save here or there. In the last 2 years, spending has increased by $10 million. What experience do you have in budget management or performance-based budgeting?
As I've said again, I am the town attorney currently, not the mayor. What I have done, as I told you before, is spend 2 years while at Agawam and their budgeting team, crafting their municipal budgets. I've worked on my budget here and been with the mayor as he's worked in other parts of the budget here. I've sat through the budget subcommittee meetings for the town council and provided them advice on different areas of different parts of the budget. I've also earned my master's in business administration, where budgeting is a big part of business moving forward while I was in school and while I served as an attorney over in Agawam. As I move forward, it's going to be important to work through the budget on a daily basis with the department heads, find ways that, and they know their budget best, but provide incentives for them to find ways to cut, find ways to save money. In addition, it will be good if they have one-time projects to seek ways to use free cash for those capital projects and find grants as well. But those are one-time expenses that they can cut from their budget. Reoccurring expenses, we'll find ways to do it year after year while also making sure our employees have a fair wage.
Rebuttal.
Thank you. I think one of the most important things to talk about is in another recent debate. One of the things that Mr. Reichelt said was his experience comes from having overheard conversations that were taking place in the administrations that he was working for. He's told you today a number of times when a topic comes up that he's uncomfortable with that it's not his job. But then it is his job when he talks about the other things that he wants to do. The voters of West Springfield deserve a candidate for mayor who's had proven experience and knows how our budget works and has worked on those budgets, which I have.
Will Reichelt, your next question, please.
Just to point out, I'm not dodging questions. I'm merely pointing out to you when you try to tell the voters that failings that you perceive are my fault when I am the town attorney. But let's talk about ads, budgeting, and free cash. You said in one of your recent ads that you plan to provide a one-time rebate to the voters, the taxpayers, while also improving our schools, fields, hiring more employees, and really telling the voters everything they want to hear. How do they get a rebate while also all the improvements without negatively affecting their tax consequences?
So the answer to that question is by utilizing a lot of the currently available services that exist. As I've talked about many times in the past, the town of West Springfield has gotten away from using the free services that exist in either the Sheriff's Department or the Community Corrections Centers, volunteer people that are fulfilling civic obligation or probationary status, if you will, that can come in and help us offset the cost of doing a lot of this work. I've talked about going after and securing new grants, which will save the town's taxpayers money. What we're talking about, what I'm trying to express to the voters in the plainest way possible, is that the next administration needs to have the experience to know how to harness the currently available tools that our community will need most. And that's what I have. Over the last 5 years in the state legislature, I've made connections across this state in administrations, and I will be able to harness those relationships to help us get where we need to be. Thank you.
Rebuttal.
Thank you, Rich. Mr. Finn, I think you've been away from the town hall for far too long if you believe that having the sheriff bring prisoners over into our community is going to improve our fields. That's a mistake. In addition, if you have these connections, where has it all been to improve what we have now? Why do we have to wait to have you become the mayor to suddenly realize any connections that you have made? It seems like you're just telling the voters what they want to hear instead of telling them an actual plan on how to move forward.
Mike Finn, your next question, please.
Thank you, Rich. Mr. Reichelt, you've stated your job as mayor will be give the taxpayers what they want, even if it's not what you want. Residents are asking for tax relief, so how will you give them the relief that they're seeking?
As I've said before, as we move forward, I will work to minimize the tax burden on our community. I'm a taxpayer as well, but without defaulting on our bills and without incurring additional interest expenses. We already budget now to smooth out curves and increasing debt expenses from building a high school, from building a new library, and as we move forward, we'll work to find efficiencies in the budget. I'm not going to tell you specifics now because the changing financial landscape differs year after year, and what happens now may change again in January when we begin to work on the budget again. But I'm not promising tax increases. I'm promising to work on minimizing our tax burden as we move forward without interruption in services, without sacrificing our infrastructure, and without mortgaging our children's future. Thank you.
Rebuttal.
Thank you. And the reason why you're not going to hear any specifics out of Mr. Reichelt is because he's spent this entire campaign telling you why we can't do things, not how we're going to do things. And you know, when we start talking about you know, where have those services been? I worked for years establishing those programs, working with the people that I knew in those different departments, and any money that the town can save that the taxpayers don't have to, you know, raise and spend to help us, you know, do the job of running the town of West Springfield is money well spent.
Will, your next question, please.
Speaking of those programs, Mr. Finn, what specifically have you done on your own work, effort, and ability over the past 5 years to improve our community?
Thank you. I never thought I'd get an opportunity to talk about all the things that I've done for our community. So in the last few years, I've secured the the budget, through the budget, the monies to create the new summer youth job program. I've secured the monies to be able to help get the carbon sequestration program off the ground. I've worked diligently over the last 5 years in the legislature to see that increases to local aid have been accomplished each and every year I've been in the legislature. I've worked to ensure that Chapter 70 monies for our schools continue to come in and are increasing every single year. I brought the naloxone auto-injector program to the town of West Springfield. I have spent as much time as I possibly can dedicated to the town of West Springfield, something that has never been lost on me, whether I'm driving back and forth to Boston every single day, is that the town that I love, the community that I'm dedicated to serving is West Springfield, and that's why I come home from Boston every single night.
Rebuttal.
Well, the local aid has been increased year after year, so you've increased our spending. The labor workforce, the $100,000, never materialized in our budgets. We had to use free cash to pay for it. We're still waiting on the carbon sequestration money. And then when you talk about the naloxone distributors that you brought here, you brought a businessman to town, and then I worked with the administration and department heads to make sure a contract was in place that protected our citizens and that a policy was in place to actually distribute the drug to people who needed it.
Okay, candidates, we have time for one more question. Mike Finn, you get to ask that question.
Thank you. Mr. Reichelt, you've said one of your priorities will be leveling up each school in town. You've had 16 months to do that, but according to the most recent school performance report, our schools have not improved. Why should teachers, parents, or the students now believe you?
Again, Mr. Finn, I don't want to sound defensive, but I'm the town attorney. I'm not the mayor. The mayor is the chair of the school committee, not me. I work now with the department heads and along with our school attorney to make sure our citizens and our students are protected when it comes to lawsuits, both defending and prosecuting on the town's behalf. I plan, and part of my 5-point plan is to work and invest in our schools and drive for improved performance. That's replicating the successes at our current schools, making sure students have the rigor they need to succeed, and making sure teachers and students always have time to focus on the needs they have in the classroom and learn what they need instead of just focusing on tests or filling out bubbles and grants. Thank you.
Rebuttal.
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, I think this is one of the key differences between us, is I'm willing to stand here and make a proposal to you and stand by it. Mr. Reichelt has just told you that every success the current administration has, he's had a role in. And every failure, everything we haven't been able to get to, is somebody else's responsibility. So either you are a key advisor to the current administration or you are not. And if you are not the key advisor that you've claimed to be, then you clearly don't have the experience that you're telling all the voters that you have. Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, time now for closing statements. Each candidate will get 1 minute for a closing statement. Mike Finn, you go first.
Thank you very much, and thank you to Mr. Reichelt for joining us today, and Channel 22 and Rich Teddemer. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm running for the mayor of the town of West Springfield because I strongly believe that our community needs strong leadership now more than ever. I've talked about, yes, I have talked about many of the things that I feel have been left undone in the current administration. I've talked strongly and passionately about my beliefs in education, my belief about our tax structure, and my belief on how to move this town forward. The experience that I bring to this position of having both served in municipal government at the highest level, being elected the city council president by my peers, and having served in leadership in the State House, are real life experiences that this town will be able to harness. These are assets that our community can rely upon. And whether you've liked the decision that I've made or you've disliked the decision I've made, nobody can argue with the fact that I've stood there and done what's in the best interest of this community and represented us 100%. And if elected mayor, I'm going to use all of those skills to move our town forward. Thank you.
Will Reichelt, your closing statement, please.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you again, 22 News, for hosting this debate, Rich Teddemer for moderating, and everyone who's tuned in to watch. I'm Will Reichelt. And as you've heard before, if it's too good to be true, it is. And now that we set the record straight with the real numbers, I hope you see that the budget is more in depth than a few sound bites can convey. We need to look behind the real numbers and not engage in a shell game of false promises. Understanding requires more than a glance at a graph. And as your next mayor, I've said again that I will work to minimize our tax burden, but without defaulting on our bills or incurring additional interest expenses. I have the know-how to get the job done because I've worked in the executive office for the past 4 years. I've served as chief counsel for 2 mayors in 2 communities. And I've helped craft municipal budgets, not just rubber stamp them at the legislature. So I ask that on November 3rd, we make the best choice for West Springfield. We cast our vote for a responsible leader. I'm Will Reichelt, and appreciate that vote. Thank you.
That concludes our look at the candidates running for mayor of West Springfield. Thanks to Mike Finn and Will Reichelt for participating today. Election day, of course, is Tuesday, November 3rd. If you missed any of today's debate, you can always watch it again on wwlp.com. I'm Rich Teddemer. Thanks for joining us. Have a good afternoon.